Still though, I'm excited.
Yu Izumi is an ugly, disgusting idiot, but he somehow bags the cutest chick in school. This must be some sort of black magic, because on a normal day, would that kind of girl even look his way? She turns out to not only be as cute as the Powerpuff Girls, but also a smoke show and popular. How does Izumi handle this? The episode opens with Izumi setting off for his first day at school. His mom helps him with his hair, and before he set foot to the outside world, his mom told him to watch out for rocks, crows, cars, and some other things. 7 seconds after leaving the house, he trips on a rock and face slams the ground. It's like his mom knew everything that could discourage him from reaching school today, because not long after, he caught sight of a crow that sent blessings from its rare opening flying down at Izumi. He evades it, but nature was only using that was bait. He trips over a cable, and the hair his mom helped him put in order was in nothing but total disorder. Shikimori standing and glittering with her long pink hair, pulling everyone's attention like the center of gravity. She's becoming slightly impatient, waiting for Izumi, who's running to her after helping an old lady who told him his hair was a mess and putting himself together. She turned around with her eyes that are a darker shade of blue compared to that of Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen. On their way to school, Shikimori noticed Izumi had a rough morning from the way he looked, but Izumi told her not to worry as he was used to it. In his thoughts, Izumi mentioned how cute his girlfriend Shikimori is. You're wondering too, and so have I been wondering too, how it is the first day of school and he's already got for himself the center of attention, Shikimori. He thought out loud, says she doesn't act cute all the time. She reacts, and a few seconds later, she saved him from being hit by a truck. His line of thoughts continued, and I understand crystal clear. From how she looked after saving him, one could tell that Shikimori's a very cute girl, but there's just something off about her. They hurried the rest of the way to school, and when they got there, Izumi was shaking to the bone because he wanted to be in the same class as his girlfriend. After searching the class list, they found out that they were in fact in the same class alongside a few other classmates they knew. As the day went on, Izumi's bad luck struck again. Is this a family thing, or he's just cursed? This time, it affected Shikimori. Izumi helped her dust off her hair, but this made Shikimori embarrassed, so she excused herself and ran to the bathroom to clean herself up. While she was gone, the mob of jealousy guys in the class circled Izumi and teased him by asking how he got a cute girl like her to date a dull guy like him, the same question I was asking. Shikimori got back early and overheard their conversation, but instead of saying something, she just walked in and carried Izumi away to the library, but not before turning around at the last second to give the guys a death stare that would make even Vegeta think twice. Once school ended, Inuzuka, one of Izumi's old friends, came to ask him if he'd like to go out later, to which Izumi gladly agreed. The girls were also in on it, so they went to the bowling alley after a few hours. When they got there, Inuzuka and Nekozaki immediately got into the competitive spirit. Izumi asked Shikimori if she had ever bowled before. She had, but only a few times. Without wasting any time, Inuzuka and Nekozaki started. They both had good strikes, almost clearing all the pins. Hachimitsu even got a strike. But once it got to Shikimori's turn, she became a whole different person, getting a perfect round of full strikes. Nekozaki and Inuzuka felt crushed by their defeat, while Izumi had sparkles in his eyes seeing how cool his girlfriend was, like she had just gone Super Saiyan, or the look that would be bee in my eyes if I saw a cosplayer in an Esdeath costume. On their walk back home, after the excitement of the bowling had gone down, Izumi expressed how he felt pathetic whenever Shikimori had to protect him. Shikimori felt sad after hearing that, so she reassured him that she protected him because she wanted to, much like how Mikasa always protected Eren like she had no other choice. Hearing this made Izumi very happy, and they enjoyed the rest of their walk, talking about how they could be the next great duo, like the great bro duo we were blessed to come across in Jujutsu Kaisen between Itadori and Aoi. The class was getting excited for the ball sports tournament. Izumi and Inuzuka were in the soccer event for the boys, while Shikimori and Neko were in the volleyball tournament. Izumi figured he wouldn't be much help in the soccer game because of his bad luck, so he made up his mind to just support Shikimori as best as he could. Unfortunately, those dreams were crushed when he found out that his game would be at the same time as hers. Everyone got ready, and the tournament began, starting with the boys' soccer match. Almost immediately after the match started, Izumi's string of bad luck struck, and he got himself injured before the first half of the first half. If Murphy's Law had a mascot, it would be Izumi. Luckily, Shikimori was there to help him to the clinic like a knight in shining armor. While they were in the clinic, Shikimori kept asking if he was okay. She had such a worried look on her face. Izumi was pretty much alright. It was his pride that was really hurt after looking so clumsy out there. Shikamori had to leave for her game, but as she was going, Izumi made a comment about how he could protect her too. This made Shikamori tease Izumi by suggesting she hide under the covers and stay with him, like they were in a Sword Art Online safe zone. Izumi went red, but Shikamori laughed it off and eventually went to her game. At the other court, they were about to start the volleyball match. Shikamori came just in time and the match was underway. At first, the game looked to be going in the other team's favor, but when Izumi came out and cheered for Shikamori, she put on her serious mode and started to really bring the heat to the other team. After a serious Blue Lock level battle between the volleyball team, Shikamori led her team to victory with a 2-point lead. The next day, everyone was celebrating the volleyball victory. Neko and Shikamori became so much more popular, poor Izumi couldn't get any more time with her. All the girls from school wanted a picture, a handshake, or something else. This went on every day for most of the week. Even when it was time for lunch, Izumi had to eat alone because people surrounded her all the time. It was like she had suddenly become the Yagami of the school. Everybody wanted some of her light. Later in the day, when school was over, as Izumi headed back home, he reminisced about how exhausting the day was. He also thought about how Shikamori had become so popular and now he had to share her cool side with everyone else. While he was lost in thought, he slipped and was about to get a face full of stares, but Shikamori came to the rescue and saved him, like she was Todoroki using his ice powers to save Midoriya. She questioned him on why he would go home without her, and he then expressed his earlier thoughts. Hearing him talk like that made her sad, so she told him that he's the only one she wants to walk home with. Like that would make up for sharing her all day. After settling everything that happened with a little laughter and a lot of blushing, they headed home, feeling like they were living their own version of a slice-of-life anime. Inuzuka approached Izumi with 2 premium tickets that he had acquired from a coworker. He gave them both to Izumi because he would be busy on the day they were usable. Obviously, Izumi's first instinct was to ask Shikamori to go with him, and she eagerly said yes to the date. That evening, they both stayed up to plan for the date. Izumi strategizing on how to avoid any strokes of bad luck again, I wonder. Is this misfortune thing a family curse? Shikamori, on the other hand, was trying to look as cute as possible. The next day, Izumi went out for their date much earlier than usual, all for the purpose of getting any random strokes of bad luck out of the way. It all paid off, and he was able to meet up with Shikamori, who was looking as incredibly cute as usual. On the ride there, Izumi had fantasies of them kissing at the movies since it would be their first time going to one. At the cinema, they had a hard time deciding what to watch. Izumi eventually told Shikamori to pick since she always went with whatever he wanted. Shikamori chose a horror movie that was trending on social media. At first, Izumi seemed nervous, but he decided to look at it as his chance to prove how manly he was, hoping to channel his inner Gon when faced with Hisoka's bloodlust. They got seated and the movie started. To his surprise, the movie was a lot scarier than he thought, and Shikamori ended up having to console him for the duration of the whole movie. It was like watching Zenitsu from Demon Slayer trying to brave through a haunted house. After the movie ended, they went out to eat, but Izumi realized that despite his preparations, he still lost his wallet. However, he finally got some good luck as he bumped into his parents. They invited Shikamori and Izumi back to the house to treat them to a feast and some snacks too. They got back to Izumi's home and Izumi's mom prepared a feast for them. Izumi's mom made sure to tell Shikamori that she was always welcome at their home anytime. After they finished eating, Izumi's parents left the table to go do different things. Izumi told Shikamori how he panicked when she had to suddenly come over, but it wasn't so smooth on her side either. Being in the house of the person she loves definitely made her nervous too. Shikamori went to help Izumi's mom with the dishes and they both giggled about how adorable Izumi was as he slept. Izumi's mother's tone got serious for a little and she asked Shikamori not to lose patience with Izumi since he was so accident prone. But Shikamori cleared all her doubts and strongly reassured her that she would always be by Izumi's side, much like how Hinata never gave up on Naruto. Time flew by quickly and Izumi's mother woke him up to walk Shikamori home since it was getting late. To his surprise, Shikamori had bonded with his father while he was asleep. On the walk home, Izumi felt embarrassed about sleeping so soon, but Shikamori said she enjoyed seeing his sleepy face. It was the start of summer, and it's usually accompanied with the sun hat feels like it drew closer to Earth. Izumi and his friends were planning where they would go for summer break. Neko suggested they go to the beach, and Shikamori was all for the idea. But Inuzuka suggested they go to the river instead, since Izumi was sensitive to too much sun and liked colder places better. They all agreed, and it was settled. A few days later, at school, they found out that final exams were coming up soon. With that in mind, Izumi and the gang went to the mall to get stuff for their river trip. Inuzuka kept saying they should study, but Neko and Hachimitsu went ahead to get swimsuits. Shikamori asked Izumi if he would be swimming, and to her disappointment, he wasn't. Since he wasn't swimming, she didn't see the need to get a swimsuit and didn't follow Neko to get one, but that was before she saw Izumi staring at a swimsuit model. After seeing this, she immediately ran to get a swimsuit of her own, determined to outshine any model like Erza Scarlet from Fairy Tail showing off a new armor. Left alone with Inuzuka, they both went to get food and read somewhere else, with Inuzuka jokingly comparing their study session to cramming for a ninja exam in Naruto. At the swimsuit store, Shikamori bumped into Neko and Hachimitsu. She told them about how Izumi was staring at the model and she got jealous. Neko recalled the story of how they first met and told Shikamori that she hated losing, but it seems like everyone knew it except Shikamori herself. They went on to find a swimsuit for Shikamori, determined to make her look as stunning as a magical girl transformation in Sailor Moon, and after that reference I realized that I have a lot of anime. At the food spot, Izumi and Inuzuka were busy reading, then the girls came to join them after a while. Spidey senses tingled and Izumi noticed that Shikamori bought something, but he was too dense to realize it was a swimsuit, so he kept asking Shikamori what it was that she bought, and she kept denying she bought anything at all. On their way home, Izumi entertained Shikamori with a tale of one of his past accidents. He felt miserable just from recalling it, and he went home gloomy like Luffy when he doesn't have meat to eat. Back at home, Izumi was panicking because he was unable to focus and read for his exams tomorrow, but just then, Shikamori called and soothed all his worries. She actually called to make sure he was okay, but they digressed into talking about stars and how Izumi had never seen the constellations. Shikamori then promised to take him somewhere he could see all the constellations like Your Lie in April. Izumi told her he'd do the same thing and take her somewhere she really wanted to go as well, but she told Izumi that she was okay going anywhere as long as she was with him. Shikamori said it was getting late, so she quickly ended the call, and they went to sleep after an hour of talking. On the other end of the call, Shikamori was so flustered because of what Izumi said that she began yelling and screaming into her pillow about how she wanted to see him like Goku, patiently waiting to have a fight. Exams were finally over, school was on break, Izumi and the gang headed down to the river as planned. As usual, Neko and Inuzuka got into the spirit sooner than the others. Next was to prepare the barbecue. Inuzuka was terrible with a knife, so he was put on standby, but to everyone's surprise, Izumi picked up the knife and expertly started cutting the vegetables. It was like watching Soma from Food Wars in action. With Neko and Hachimitsu handling the grill, the barbecue was underway. Izumi noticed Shikamori was doing something different from the others, but he just silently watched. Once it was done, Shikamori offered it to Izumi. Izumi took one bite and was almost incapacitated from the taste. Looks like Shikamori wasn't perfect at everything, like when Asuna from Sword Art Online burns a meal. But even after realizing that the food was barely edible, Izumi continued to eat since Shikamori put so much effort into making it. Shikamori promised that she would learn to make it delicious. Izumi made s'mores as dessert, and after everyone had their fill, they packed up and headed to the river. Once everyone got there, they started having fun. Even the little kids were enjoying the river, but one kid in particular, a little girl, got swept away by the current. Izumi noticed quickly and headed in after her like a true hero. He hurriedly got her to safety, but as soon as he tried to get out of the water himself, his legs cramped up and he fell back in as the current carried him away. Inuzuka noticed Izumi's absence and alerted the others. They searched for a little bit, and after a while, they saw the little girl who Izumi saved. She pointed in the direction of where Izumi was floating towards. Shikamori dived right in after Izumi before anyone could think of what to do next. She caught up to him just in time and saved him from the water. As Shikamori was scolding him for not calling out to her sooner, the rest of the gang was just happy to see him okay. The little girl and her mother thanked him so much the little girl even gave him a kiss on the cheek. Shikimori ick at the sight of that. After a while, everyone went back to enjoying themselves. Once they were done at the river, the gang headed to the mall for some shopping. After that, they went to get some ice cream. Izumi and Shikamori got theirs early, so they stood at the side enjoying theirs. Time flew by and it was evening already, time to head home. They got to the train station and no one was there, so they sat and giggled. While the train was moving, they each gave in to exhaustion and slept off. Except Izumi, who had to stay focused because the apple of his eyes was napping on his shoulder. Izumi recalled the events of the day and how fun it was. While doing so, he finally gave in and slept off. Shikamori woke up as soon as he did and rested his head on her shoulder. It was a perfect end to a day that felt like a heartwarming episode of the warm times of. After their outing to the river, Izumi had sunburns all over. He was on a call with Shikamori and she said they probably wouldn't be able to go out for a while. Just then, Izumi saw a news broadcast about fireworks showing at night. He immediately asked Shikamori to go with him. She, of course, replied with a quick yes. The day finally came, and they were both struggling to get ready, but Izumi's parents helped him out and Shikamori's brother helped her out too. Izumi got there first and made sure he had everything ready for the festival so that he could give Shikamori a good time. After a while, Shikamori came along and they were both stunned when they saw how cute they both were. They went on ahead and began to enjoy the festival. They came across a particular stall that had a shooting game. Izumi wanted to try and win a stuffed animal for Shikimori, but he couldn't. Shikamori, however, picked up the gun and shot down almost every item on display. If this ain't 007 material, what is? She then gave the stuffed wolf that Izumi wanted to win to him. She said she purposely wanted to give it to him. He's standing there feeling powerless. As the stall owner waved goodbye, Inuzuka and the gang bumped into them. They all went goldfish scooping afterwards. After Izumi lost in the first round, Shikimori's competitive side took over and it seemed like they would miss the fireworks show. Hachimitsu had to step in and pull Shikimori away so that she could go ahead and watch the fireworks. Shikimori and Izumi hurried away just in time to walk to the show and still make it. But this time, Shikimori had a stroke of bad luck and her slipper strap tore. They managed to walk a little bit, but after a while, Shikimori had bruises on her feet and couldn't walk anymore. As they stopped for a break, Shikimori asked Izumi about where he said he wanted to take her earlier. Izumi mentioned it was a secret spot with a great view for watching the festival. Shikimori wanted to go, but Izumi refused and said he'd take her back to the normal viewing point instead. He gave her a piggyback ride, and after a few minutes, Shikimori noticed they were heading in an unfamiliar direction. That was when Izumi told her that he was going to take her to the secret spot after all. After a long walk and a stressful flight of stairs, they reached the spot and they were the only ones there. When they sat down at the bench, the show started and they talked all through while enjoying the pretty fireworks. If you like pretty fireworks and like to cry too, watch the movie I Wanna Eat Your Pancreas, that's to say, if you haven't watched it. Once the show was done, Izumi put Shikimori on his back again and started heading down the stairs, but he'd reached his limit and slipped on the first step. Luckily for them, Izumi's parents were there to help. They were there the whole time like two monitoring ninjas watching them. Izumi's parents walked them down and drove them home. Summer had come to an end, and though it felt short for Izumi, he was now back in school starting a new term. Everyone was busy preparing for the upcoming 3-day cultural festival. This year, Izumi was tasked with working on costumes, while Shikimori took charge of decorations, quite different from last year when they were in the same group. Despite feeling nervous about the more demanding festival this year, Izumi was still excited to dive into the preparations. The next day at school, they assigned Izumi a number tag at the gate, and he hurried inside to get ready. Their class decided to run an animal cafe, and things were going smoothly until Izumi slipped on a napkin, almost spilling his order. Fortunately, Shikimori came to his rescue just in time. By the end of the day, they discussed their shifts for the next day as they headed home. The following morning, Izumi headed to his 3-hour shift at the library. To his surprise, he found himself paired with a familiar face, Kamiya, a girl he had met before. Izumi remembered how Kamiya had been friendly and open with him, making him feel comfortable talking to her. During their shift, Kamiya mentioned her class was also running a cafe similar to Izumi's, and expressed her enjoyment of the quiet library away from the festival chaos. However, their conversation took an unexpected turn when Kamiya remarked that Izumi seemed different now, attributing it to him having a girlfriend. This led to her probing about Shikimori and how Izumi had met her, even pressing him against a bookshelf with her questions. Outside, students were busy trying to match up with their assigned partners using the number tags given at the entrance, part of a couples game organized by the student council, a game reminiscent of how Izumi and Shikimori had met the previous year. Inside the library, after the intense questioning, things eventually settled down and Izumi found himself telling Kamiya the heartwarming story of how he met Shikimori. He shared how she had inspired him and given him the confidence to pursue his dreams. By the time he finished, Kamiya was visibly moved, though Izumi was left flustered from rambling on for so long. Meanwhile, outside, Shikimori and her friends continued their search for Izumi's number tag match, unaware of the peculiar encounter he was having inside the library. Summer was over and Izumi found himself back back at school gearing up for the annual cultural festival. This year, he was involved in costume preparation, while Shikamori focused on decorations, a departure from their previous collaboration. Despite the festival's increased demands, Izumi was eager and nervous to participate fully. The following day at school, Izumi received his number tag and hurried inside to start preparations. Their class was running an animal cafe, and despite a minor mishap where Izumi almost spilled an order, the day progressed smoothly with Shikamori's timely intervention. After finishing their shifts, Izumi headed to the library where he unexpectedly found himself partnered with Kamiya. They engaged in conversation, during which Kamiya mentioned a popular new live-action movie adaptation. Izumi admitted he hadn't seen it, prompting Kamiya to describe its visual appeal, especially the beautiful dresses, which Izumi found endearing. Their conversation was interrupted by Neko summoning Kamiya outside, where Shikamori proposed swapping number tags with her to ensure she ended up with Izumi. Kamiya agreed with a smile, and Izumi, appearing suddenly, was taken aback by Shikamori's presence. He questioned why she was there, to which Shikamori, equally surprised, claimed she had come to check on him early. Despite Kamiya suggesting Izumi could leave, he insisted on staying for the remaining 20 minutes of his shift, enjoying Kamiya's company. After her library shift, Kamiya returned to her class's cafe duties but found herself needing a break to clear her mind of her feelings for Izumi. Outside, Shikamori approached her and returned the number tag, admitting it was wrong to take it, especially knowing Kamiya also liked Izumi. Kamiya was moved by Shikamori's understanding and questioned why she would return the tag despite knowing Kamiya's feelings. Shikamori reassured her, expressing that she didn't see Kamiya as a threat and believed Izumi would understand too. Grateful for Shikamori's kindness, Kamiya confessed she hadn't planned to tell Izumi or anyone else about her feelings, apologizing for not moving on sooner. Touched, Shikamori tore up the tag and embraced her, offering comfort and support as they discussed their emotions. The next day was eventful for Izumi, as it marked the final day of the festival and Shikamori's birthday. After a successful day of festival activities, they celebrated together. On their way home, Izumi asked Shikamori to join him at the park, where he surprised her with a special gift, a necklace. He lovingly placed it around her neck, and they talked about their future together, with Izumi expressing his determination to become stronger for her sake. It was a bustling day as Izumi fell ill and missed school, prompting Inuzuka to assist him with notes, much to Shikamori's chagrin. After school, she convinced Inuzuka to accompany her to Izumi's home, with Neko sensing something amiss and asking Hachimitsu to join them. On the way, Shikamori stopped to buy throat drops for Izumi, with Inuzuka tagging along. Amidst selecting the drops, Shikamori accidentally called Inuzuka by her brother's name, sparking confusion. Detective Hachimitsu intervened, revealing Shikamori saw similarities between Inuzuka and her brother, which flustered Shikamori but affirmed the observation. This revelation eased Inuzuka's uncertainties about Shikamori. The following day, with Hachimitsu sick and Inuzuka at work, Shikamori and Neko found themselves alone. Neko voiced concern about the upcoming athletic festival, unsure if everything would go smoothly. While navigating the mall, Neko spotted Kamiya alone in a store and impulsively invited her to join them. Kamiya eagerly accepted, and they spent the day exploring stores, enjoying cute items, and visiting a pet store. During Neko's absence in the restroom, Shikamori and Kamiya bonded, playing games and getting along surprisingly well. Neko noticed Kamiya's genuine smile, a rare sight. Leaving the mall, they stumbled upon an empty basketball court claimed by another group of girls. After friendly banter, Shikamori and Kamiya accepted the challenge and won the game, eventually reconciling and taking pictures with the other girls. After parting ways with Shikamori, Kamiya and Neko walked home together, forging a closer friendship. Neko inquired about Kamiya's interests, respecting her boundaries when personal matters arose, enjoying their journey home together. Autumn is here. The cultural festival is over, and now Izumi and his classmates were preparing for the athletic festival. In the class, they were picking the candidates for the mixed relay. Izumi got picked first, and Hachimitsu got picked next. They were both already feeling sad about it, but Shikamori swapped papers with someone, and just like that, she was on the relay team too. Inuzuka and Neko volunteered, and eventually all 5 of them were on the team. Later in the day, the 5 of them went to practice at the track. Izumi and Hachimitsu weren't doing so well, but the others seemed to have their roles down pat. Once it got darker, Inuzuka, Neko, and Shikamori went to practice for their other events. Izumi and Hachimitsu stayed back to practice for longer. The next day, the athletic festival started. It began with the guys' horse battle. Izumi and Inuzuka lost badly. Next was the girls' ball toss. At the start, Hachimitsu was in a good lead, but she soon burnt out her stamina and came in second. But even though Hachimitsu was tired, dirty, and sweaty, she was having fun and felt good because she was around her friends. Later in the afternoon, it was time for the relay. The runners got in place and the race started. Neko had a good start and handed it to Hachimitsu. Hachimitsu was doing well for the first few seconds, but she started to get fatigued not long after. The fatigue got into her head and she couldn't focus on the race anymore. She eventually tripped and fell face first on the ground. All the other racers ran past her, but that didn't stop her. Hachimitsu kept on running. Even with the injury on her knee, she kept going until she got the baton to Izumi. Izumi took off immediately and managed to close the huge gap between himself and the rest of the runners, but his goal was to at least to get past the last person. Just as he was seemingly about to do just that, his stroke of bad luck hit and his shoe came off. Izumi wasn't about to let his bad luck ruin the race any further, so he kicked the second leg off too and kept moving. In the end, all he could do was close the gap. He saw Shikamori in the distance, and for some reason he felt at ease because he just knew that she was going to make everything better in this seemingly impossible situation. Shikamori zoomed right into second place with amazing speed, and Inuzuka brought it home by reaching first place. The celebrations afterwards were super cheerful, with everyone cheering for Class 4. Hachimitsu was unbelievably happy with the outcome of the race. She was so surprised that they managed to pull it off and come first, but more than anything else, even with the injuries, she was happy she had fun with her friends. Shikimori seems to be out with her older brother. She complains about him tagging along, but he just teases her and they keep going. Shikimori heads to buy clothes, and her brother tells her to call him when she's done. While at the store, Shikimori struggles to decide what to buy. It had been so long since she went on a date with Izumi. She remembered how the other day after school, as they were heading home, Izumi brought it up that it had been so long since they had time to talk with just them. But even with the motivation of seeing the commercial of the amusement park, she still couldn't find something to pick for the date. As she came out from the store, she met her brother being held by two girls trying to ask him out. He was so shy and he couldn't leave on his own. Shikamori had to come and drag him away from them. Shikamori teased him a little by saying he was the one acting like a kid this time around. Shikamori thought back to years ago while she was growing up. She didn't have any individuality, and she was always following after her brother and mother. She even joined the karate club like her brother and got pretty good at it too, good enough to even chase off bullies who were attacking a fellow classmate. But even then, she still didn't have any sense of self. It wasn't until her brother Fuji advised her to find something that she really wanted to do instead of just following after him. She did some soul searching and finally found her answer in the pages of a manga given to her by a classmate. She wanted to be a cute girl. She never used to put much thought or effort into what she wore or how her hair was, but now she was going to do just that. On the day of her entrance exam into high school, she bumped into a young Izumi whose exam ticket was stuck in a tree. She offered to help him get it down. Izumi strongly refused her help because he didn't want her to get hurt because of him, especially with the exam happening soon. But Shikamori quickly climbed the tree regardless and got it for him. Shikamori went away just as quickly because she felt she had done something so uncute and was embarrassed. The first day of resumption, Izumi sighted her and ran to finally say thank you. This made her flustered, so she asked for his name, and the rest is history. After that flashback, Shikimori finally realized that all her worries were in her head. She remembered that Izumi loved her cool side just as much as her cute side. After getting home, she decided on what to wear for the date. She went downstairs to get ready, and right on the table was the lip gloss she couldn't get because of its price. Her brother got it for her and left it with a note saying good luck. Izumi and Shikamori were going on their first date in a long while. And it was special too because they'd get to stay out late for it. When they got to the venue of their date on the first exhibit, there was a 90-minute wait. While they were waiting in line, Izumi told Shikamori that he wanted to see all sides of her personality. He then asked her if she had a dream. She did. She told him about how she wanted to experience a true form of love, and it had already come true. As they went on talking, the 90 minutes flew by and they finally got into the exhibit. The ride was a slow one with lovely aromas and music in the background. Shikamori was engrossed in the ride, but Izumi fell asleep towards the end of the ride. Shikamori tried to steal a kiss, but was rudely interrupted at the end and had to pull away quickly. After the ride, Izumi wanted to go to another exhibit with a shorter waiting time, but Shikamori grabbed his hand and told him that she'd wait for however long they had to. as long as she was with him. With that, they went from one ride to the next, enjoying the scenery in each other's company. As the night went on, Izumi took Shikamori to a restaurant he had booked ahead of time for this day. But his bad luck struck.
Here we go again.
And they had given the reservation to someone else. Thankfully, the receptionist was able to get them a table at another restaurant. They ended up eating their fill and left the restaurant with good spirits. While they walked, Izumi asked what Shikamori wanted to do next. She responded and said she wanted to do what was in the commercial. Izumi in his innocent mind didn't realize what she meant, and so they ended up looking for a place where they could just talk and be alone with a good view. They decided to rent a gondola and set out. While they were on the water, Izumi was starting to realize what exactly she wanted, and he became nervous. He tried to change the tone by taking a picture, but then there was a power outage. Izumi apologized because he thought his bad luck had ruined their night, but Shikamori kissed his hand gently and told him that they're now truly alone together. After some time passed, Shikamori mentioned how this was like a dream where she was all Izumi was focused on. In that moment, Izumi went in and kissed her on the cheek. He told her that he was in love with her and that she shouldn't worry about him leaving anymore. Shikamori hugged him tightly and said she was happier than she would be in any dream. The next day at school, Shikamori told the girls about what happened. The girls seemed to think Izumi could have done better than a kiss on the cheek, but after all was said, Neko and Hachimitsu concluded that as long as they were both happy, that's all that mattered.